In a world of shifting markets, this is The Curve with Wayne Malcolm, the business bishop, where leaders seize opportunities before they become obvious, where competition becomes obsolete and categories are defined.
Welcome back to The Curve. I'm Wayne Malcolm, the business bishop. And today I want to challenge one of the most dangerous assumptions entrepreneurs make when it comes to premium pricing. Because whenever I teach premium positioning, premium branding, premium offers, and premium value, there is one objection that comes up again and again. Someone will say, but isn't that too expensive? And every time I hear that question, my answer is always the same. Too expensive for whom? Those four words change the entire conversation. Because the moment you ask, too expensive for whom, you begin to realize something that most entrepreneurs have not yet understood. Nothing is objectively expensive. Expensive is subjective. Price never exists in isolation. Price only exists in relationship to the financial reality of the person who is being asked to make the purchase. The same price can be impossible for one person, uncomfortable for another, reasonable for another, and insignificant to someone else. The price hasn't changed. The buyer has. A £10,000 investment might be completely out of reach for one person. It might require savings, sacrifice, anxiety, borrowing, and months of consideration. But for another person, that same £10,000 investment may be a normal business decision made before lunch on a Tuesday. The amount is identical. The emotional experience is different. The affordability is different. The decision-making process is different. And that is why the question, is this too expensive, is usually the wrong question. The better question is, who is this expensive for? That question forces you to think strategically. It forces you to stop thinking like someone who is merely trying to sell something and start thinking like someone who understands markets, money, positioning, psychology, and purchasing power. Because affordability is not determined by price alone. Affordability is determined by the percentage of a person's available income, disposable income, savings, capital, or business resources that the purchase consumes. If something requires your entire monthly income, it feels impossible. If something consumes half of your disposable income, it feels expensive. If something represents 10% of your available resources, it might require consideration. If something represents 1% of your available resources, it becomes an ordinary buying decision. And if something represents less than 1% of your available resources, you may barely think about it at all. So again, the price has not changed. The financial reality of the buyer has changed. And this is where most entrepreneurs begin to make the wrong conclusions. They put an offer into the market. Someone says that is too expensive, and they immediately assume the problem is the price. But very often, the problem is not the price. The problem is the person they are speaking to. The problem is the market they are standing in. The problem is the position they have chosen. The problem is that they are trying to sell premium value to discount buyers. And when you try to sell premium value to discount buyers, you will spend your life defending your price, justifying your value, explaining your expertise, discounting your offer, and apologizing for the very thing that should make you powerful. This is one of the greatest mistakes entrepreneurs make. They confuse where the people are with where the money is. Let me say that again, because I believe it is one of the most important distinctions in business. Do not confuse where the people are with where the money is. Those are not the same thing. People are widely distributed. Wealth is not. Income is not evenly distributed. Asset ownership is not evenly distributed. Access to capital is not evenly distributed. Financial capacity is not evenly distributed. Purchasing power is not evenly distributed. Whether you look at the global economy, your national economy, your local marketplace, or your own industry, you will see the same pattern again and again. Large numbers of people may exist in one part of the market, while large concentrations of money exist in another part of the market. And the entrepreneur who does not understand that distinction will build a business around attention rather than purchasing power. They will chase crowds rather than clients. They will chase followers rather than buyers. They will chase visibility rather than viability. They will assume that because many people are present, much money must also be present. But that is not always true. A large audience is not the same as a qualified market. A crowded marketplace is not the same as a profitable marketplace. Popularity is not the same as purchasing power, and attention is not the same as authority. This is why premium pricing requires a different kind of thinking. It requires you to understand that the market is not one thing. The market is not flat. The market is not equal. The market is not financially uniform. The market is a spectrum, and the people on different parts of that spectrum do not think, buy, evaluate, decide, prioritize, or invest in the same way. At one end of the consumer economy, you have people who are aid dependent. These are people whose survival is dependent upon assistance from charities, aid agencies, family members, churches, communities, or humanitarian support. Above them, you have those who are state dependent. They rely primarily on government support, welfare systems, benefits, subsidies, or public provision. Then you have minimum wage earners. These are people who may be working extremely hard, but whose income is limited, fragile, and usually consumed very quickly by the basic cost of living. Then you have average income earners. These are the mainstream consumers. Many of them appear more prosperous than they actually are, because they have access to consumer credit. Credit cards, car finance, loans, buy now, pay later arrangements, mortgages, overdrafts, and all the other instruments that can create the appearance of prosperity without necessarily creating genuine financial freedom. Then you have above average income earners. These people have more discretionary income, more options, more flexibility, and often more confidence when making purchasing decisions. Above them, you have the well-off. They are no longer simply earning money, they are accumulating resources, assets, savings, investments, and options. Then you have the rich. They have significant income, significant assets, significant leverage, and often access to investment opportunities, professional networks, and forms of capital that the average person never sees. And finally, you have the super rich. At that level, money is not merely income. Money becomes an instrument. Capital becomes a tool. Access becomes a strategy. Ownership becomes a way of life. Now here is the important point. As you move up that spectrum, three things increase. Income increases, asset ownership increases, access to capital increases, and those three things dramatically change buying behavior. Because people with more income, more assets, and more access to capital do not simply have more money. They often have a different relationship with money. They have a different relationship with time. They have a different relationship with risk. They have a different relationship with convenience. They have a different relationship with expertise. They have a different relationship with opportunity. They have a different relationship with value. And until you understand that, you will continue to speak to premium buyers in the language of budget buyers. That is why premium buyers think differently. They are not primarily looking for the lowest price. They are looking for the best outcome. They are looking for certainty. They are looking for speed. They are looking for trust. They are looking for expertise. They are looking for convenience. They are looking for access. They are looking for a solution that reduces risk, increases confidence, saves time, improves results, opens doors, raises status, creates opportunity, or accelerates progress. And here is something budget buyers often do not understand. Premium buyers know that paying more for the right solution can be far cheaper than paying less for the wrong solution. Because the wrong solution costs more than money. It costs time. It costs momentum. It costs confidence. It costs opportunity. It costs energy. It can cost reputation. It can cost relationships. It can cost market position. It can cost years. So when a premium buyer is making a decision, they are not simply asking, how much does this cost? They are asking, what will this solve? What will this save? What will this unlock? What will this prevent? What will this accelerate? What will this make possible? That is a completely different buying psychology. This is why premium brands do not try to serve everyone. Not because they hate people, not because they are elitist, not because they believe some people matter and others do not, but because they understand economic alignment. Premium positioning is not elitism. Premium positioning is alignment. It is the alignment of a premium problem, a premium solution, a premium outcome, a premium promise, and a premium buyer. You are not simply increasing the price. You are increasing the relevance of your value to the right market. And this is where so many entrepreneurs go wrong. They build genuinely valuable solutions. They develop real expertise. They create offers that can solve serious problems. They possess wisdom, insight, experience, frameworks, processes, intellectual property, and transformational capacity. But then they take all of that value and present it to the most price-sensitive section of the market. And then they are shocked when every conversation becomes a negotiation. Every sales call becomes a defense. Every proposal becomes a debate. Every marketing campaign becomes an apology. Every offer has to be discounted. Every payment plan has to be stretched. Every client wants more for less. Every objection is about cost. And after months or years of that experience, the entrepreneur concludes premium pricing does not work. But premium pricing was not the problem. The positioning was the problem. You were standing in the wrong market. You were speaking to the wrong audience. You were solving an expensive problem for people who did not have the capacity, the urgency, or the willingness to invest in the solution. And that is not a pricing problem. That is a targeting problem. When every conversation revolves around cost, it is often a signal that you are speaking to people who are either unable or unwilling to value what you actually provide. And this is a hard truth for entrepreneurs, especially for those of us who care deeply about people, because we want to help everybody. We want to serve everybody. We want to make our work accessible to everybody. And there is nothing wrong with having a heart to serve. But there is a difference between ministry and model. There is a difference between generosity and business strategy. There is a difference between compassion and commercial design. A business model must be built around a market that can sustain it. You may choose to serve people charitably. You may choose to create free content. You may choose to offer scholarships, resources, mentoring, or entry-level products. But your premium business cannot be financially dependent on people who do not have premium buying capacity. That is not wisdom. That is misalignment. And misalignment creates frustration for everyone. The buyer feels pressured. The seller feels undervalued. The offer feels too expensive. The conversation becomes strained, and the value gets lost. This principle is just as true in the business-to-business marketplace. When you are selling to businesses, you must also understand that not all businesses are in the same financial condition. I generally think of businesses in four broad stages. There are sinking businesses, there are surviving businesses, there are succeeding businesses, and there are scaling businesses. A sinking business is losing money. It is in distress. It is under pressure. It is fighting for survival. It may need help desperately, but it often does not have the resources to purchase the help it needs. A surviving business is paying the bills. It is keeping the doors open. It may be making modest profits. It may have customers, revenue, and activity, but it has very little financial capacity. Every decision feels heavy because every investment threatens the fragile balance of the business. Then there is a succeeding business. This business has moved beyond mere survival. It has healthy margins. It rewards the founder. It creates financial freedom. It has a working model. It has customers, confidence, cash flow, and credibility. And finally, there is a scaling business. This business is no longer asking, how do we survive? It is asking, how do we multiply? It is thinking about new markets, stronger systems, better leadership, deeper infrastructure, strategic partnerships, acquisitions, licensing, franchising, brand expansion, and market domination. Now ask yourself a serious question. Which of those businesses is most capable of purchasing premium advisory services, strategic consulting, executive coaching, brand repositioning, premium offer development, or transformational business solutions? It is rarely the sinking business. It is only occasionally the surviving business. The greatest concentration of opportunity is usually in the succeeding and scaling businesses. Why? Because those businesses understand that the cost of poor decisions is massive. They understand that one weak strategy can cost them hundreds of thousands. One missed opportunity can cost them market share. One bad hire can cost them culture. One confused offer can cost them momentum. One weak brand position can cost them authority. One wrong partnership can cost them reputation. 1 year of delay can cost them millions. So when they invest in expertise, they are not buying hours. They are buying leverage. They are buying clarity. They are buying acceleration. They are buying confidence. They are buying strategic sight. They are buying a better decision-making environment. They are buying access to a mind, a method, a framework, and an insight that can help them move faster with less waste, less confusion, and less trial and error. That is why premium advisory work is not about selling time. If you are selling time, there will always be someone cheaper. If you are selling information, there will always be someone free. If you are selling tasks, there will always be someone faster. But if you are selling transformation, leverage, certainty, speed, access, authority, insight, and outcomes, then you are no longer in the same game. You are no longer competing on price. You are competing on value. And more than that, you are no longer competing for buyers who are looking for the cheapest option. You are positioning yourself for buyers who are looking for the right solution. This is why premium businesses do not chase the largest audience. They pursue the greatest concentration of purchasing power. Now, let me be very clear. This does not mean that other markets do not matter. It does not mean that people with less money have less value. It does not mean that one group of people has more intrinsic worth than another. That is not the point. The point is that different markets require different business models. If you want to build a high-volume, low-margin enterprise, then serving the mass market makes perfect sense. There is nothing wrong with that model. Supermarkets do it, fast food chains do it, major retailers do it, budget airlines do it, large platforms do it. They win by volume, systems, logistics, scale, distribution, and operational efficiency. But if you are a coach, consultant, expert, advisor, speaker, strategist, creative, professional, or founder of a service-based business, you may not have the infrastructure to win in a high-volume, low-margin economy. You may not have the supply chain. You may not have the advertising budget. You may not have the team. You may not have the operational machine. You may not have the capacity to sell thousands of units at tiny margins and still survive. And this is why so many entrepreneurs are exhausted. They are trying to win a game that was designed for giants. They are trying to use a mass market strategy with a micro business infrastructure. They are trying to compete with volume when they should be competing with value. They are trying to win with affordability when they should be winning with authority. They are trying to attract everyone when they should be attracting the right ones. This is the migration many entrepreneurs must now make. They must migrate from the bargain economy into the premium value economy. They must move away from being the cheapest option and become the clearest authority. They must stop trying to appeal to the widest possible audience and start building extraordinary value for the market that is both willing and able to invest in extraordinary results. Because your market determines your model, and your model determines your margins, and your margins determine your freedom. If you position yourself in a discount market, do not be surprised when people want discounts. If you position yourself in a price-sensitive market, do not be surprised when every question is about price. If you position yourself in a survival market, do not be surprised when nobody has the capacity to invest. If you position yourself in a conventional market, do not be surprised when you are compared to conventional alternatives. But if you position yourself in a premium value market, and you create a premium value solution, and you communicate a premium value promise, and you place that promise before premium buyers, the entire conversation changes. Now, the question is not, why does this cost so much? The question becomes, can this produce the outcome I need? Now, the conversation is not about your hourly rate. It is about the consequence of the problem. Now, the buyer is not comparing you to the cheapest provider. They are comparing the investment to the value of the result. And that is where premium pricing begins to make sense. A Ferrari dealership would never position itself in a market where everyone is searching for second-hand bicycles. That would be absurd. The product would be wrong for the market. The message would be wrong for the buyer. The expectations would be wrong for the conversation. And the price would seem ridiculous. Not because the car has no value, but because it is being presented to people who are not looking for that kind of value. Likewise, a premium advisory business should not expect discount buyers to recognize or reward premium value. You cannot keep placing a premium offer in a discount environment and then wonder why it is not being received properly. The issue is not always the offer. Sometimes it is the environment. Sometimes it is the audience. Sometimes it is the category. Sometimes it is the frame. Sometimes it is the positioning. Premium pricing is not about charging more for the same thing. That is not premium, that is exploitation. Premium pricing is about creating greater value, solving more expensive problems, producing superior outcomes, reducing greater risks, accelerating more meaningful progress, and serving people who understand the value of all of that. It is a different philosophy of business. It is not, how can I charge more? It is, how can I create something worth more? It is not, how can I persuade people to pay higher prices? It is, how can I identify the people for whom this outcome is already valuable? It is not, how can I manipulate the market? It is, how can I align my value with the people who can fully appreciate it? That is the essence of premium positioning. So perhaps the question is not, is my offer too expensive? Perhaps the question is, who is it expensive for? Perhaps the question is not, how do I get everyone to afford this? Perhaps the question is, who already has the capacity to invest in this level of outcome? Perhaps the question is not, how do I make this cheaper? Perhaps the question is, how do I make this more valuable? Perhaps the question is not, how do I convince discount buyers? Perhaps the question is, how do I stop presenting premium value to the wrong buyers? Because the greatest mistake entrepreneurs make is not charging too much. The greatest mistake is trying to sell premium value to discount buyers. The greatest mistake is creating something transformational and then placing it before people who only want something transactional. The greatest mistake is building deep expertise and then offering it in a market that only rewards convenience and cost reduction. The greatest mistake is confusing demand with capacity. The greatest mistake is confusing attention with purchasing power. The greatest mistake is confusing where the people are with where the money is. And once you understand that, you will never think about pricing the same way again. You will never think about marketing the same way again. You will never think about branding the same way again. You will never think about your audience the same way again. You will stop asking, how do I become cheaper? And you will start asking, how do I become more valuable? You will stop asking, how do I appeal to everyone? And you will start asking, who is already searching for the outcome I provide? You will stop asking, how do I survive in a low-margin economy? And you will start asking, how do I migrate into the premium value economy? That is the curve entrepreneurs must get ahead of now. Because the conventional economy is becoming more crowded, more automated, more competitive, more price-sensitive, and more difficult to survive in. Artificial intelligence is increasing supply. Digital platforms are increasing comparison. Global competition is increasing pressure. Customers are becoming more cautious. Margins are being squeezed. Attention is becoming more expensive. And the businesses that survive the next season will not simply be the businesses that work harder. They will be the businesses that position smarter. They will be the businesses that understand value. They will be the businesses that understand markets. They will be the businesses that know exactly who they are built to serve, what problem they are built to solve, what outcome they are built to deliver, and why the right buyer should be willing to invest. So let me leave you with this. Your price is not just a number. Your price is a signal. It tells the market what level of problem you solve. It tells the buyer what kind of outcome you believe you can deliver. It tells the world where you believe your value belongs. But your price can only work when your positioning supports it. A premium price without premium value is arrogance. Premium value without premium positioning is waste. And premium positioning without premium buyers is frustration. You need all three: premium value, premium positioning, premium buyers. When those three things align, the conversation changes, the objection changes, the market changes, the business changes, and often the entrepreneur changes too, because you stop begging the marketplace to validate your worth. You start building value with confidence, communicating it with clarity, and placing it before the people who are ready to recognize it, reward it, and invest in it. So the next time someone asks you, isn't that too expensive? Don't rush to defend the price. Ask the deeper question. Too expensive for whom? Because that question may reveal that your offer is not overpriced. It may reveal that your offer is misplaced. And once you understand the difference between where the people are and where the money is, you will never build your business the same way again. This is Wayne Malcolm, the Business Bishop, and this is The Curve.
Thank you for listening to this episode of The Curve. If this message struck a nerve, or if something about this resonated with you, then why not take this conversation a step further? Download my free executive briefing, Brand Ascension: How entrepreneurs migrate from the conventional economy into the premium value economy. Inside this briefing, I break down why competition keeps intensifying, why margins keep shrinking, why effort no longer guarantees leverage, why certain businesses appear to operate under completely different economic conditions, and what you can do to secure a bright future for your brand. It is not about working harder. It's about positioning smarter. It's about understanding the economic environment you're operating in and learning how to reposition yourself ahead of the curve. So download the briefing today, study it carefully. And if it resonates deeply with you, then book a free strategic consultation with me. Because once you understand the structure, you can begin the migration. The link is in the description. There are moments in history when the rules of business begin to change faster than most people can adapt. This is one of those moments. Artificial intelligence is redefining value. Consumer behavior is shifting. Markets are becoming harder to read. Competition is intensifying. And many business models that worked yesterday are becoming increasingly fragile. The question is no longer, are things changing? The question is, can you see where the change is going before everybody else does? Because in every economic shift, there are two groups of people. Those who react after the opportunity becomes obvious, and those who position before the crowd arrives. And that is exactly why I created this executive briefing. Preemptive positioning, how to future-proof your business now. Inside this free report, I break down the hidden shifts reshaping the global economy, why traditional business assumptions are collapsing, how serious leaders identify opportunity before it becomes mainstream, the prep framework for positioning ahead of the curve, and the industries likely to dominate the next era. It's not motivational theory. It is strategic interpretation for entrepreneurs, executives, advisors, and serious operators who understand that the future will reward those who can see earlier, think more clearly, and move more intelligently. And the best part, it's completely free. So if you want to strengthen your positioning, sharpen your strategic thinking, and prepare your business for what's coming next, download the executive briefing today and study it carefully. Because prosperity increasingly belongs to those who position themselves before the opportunity becomes obvious. This is Wayne Malcolm, the Business Bishop, and the link is in the description.